Disclaimer: this story is based on true events and is shared for storytelling purposes only. Names and details may have been changed to protect privacy. Viewer discretion is advised due to emotional themes. I never thought I'd carry a secret this heavy. A secret so deep, I've never dared to speak it aloud, not even to my closest friend. It started like any other quiet afternoon, the kind where nothing seems out of place. The sun was soft against the curtains, the house smelled faintly of my dad's aftershave and mom's cooking, and everything felt normal. But that's the thing about life, sometimes, the most earth-shattering moments happen right in the middle of a peaceful day. Growing up, I always saw my dad as this quiet, strong man. The type who didn't say much, but you always knew he loved you. He worked hard, came home every night, kissed my mom on the cheek, and asked me about school. We weren't overly close, but we shared little moments, car rides, fixing things around the house, silent nods that meant everything was okay. So when I say I never expected what I found out, I really mean it. It started with a phone. My dad's phone, left carelessly on the kitchen table while he was outside mowing the lawn. Normally, I'd never even think to look at it. But that day, it buzzed, once, then again. I don't know what made me pick it up. Curiosity? Instinct? Maybe just boredom. But whatever it was, that decision cracked open a truth I can never forget. The messages weren't from a friend or a coworker. They were different. Flirty. Intimate. Signed with a name I'd never heard before. My heart started racing. At first, I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. A prank. A misread joke. But the more I scrolled, the clearer it became my dad was having an affair. I froze. My hands felt cold. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't just about him and some stranger. This was about us. Our family. My mom, who always made his lunch with a note tucked inside. My little sister, who waited for his goodnight hug. Me, who never questioned if my dad was a good man. All of it was now cracked, hanging by a thread I wasn't sure I should pull. And the worst part? I couldn't tell anyone. Not my mom, not my sister, not even my best friend. I felt like I had stumbled into something way too big for me. I didn't want to destroy our family, but I also couldn't unsee what I'd seen. I started watching my dad more closely. How he looked at his phone when no one was around. How he stayed up late in the garage. How he avoided long eye contact with my mom. Everything started to feel like a clue. I started changing too. I wasn't sleeping well. I became quiet at the dinner table. I avoided my dad's eyes. I think he noticed, but he never asked. Maybe he was scared I knew. Maybe he just didn't care. Days passed. Then weeks. I kept this secret like a weight in my chest. I'd hear my parents laugh in the living room and wonder if it was all fake. I'd hear my sister talk about how daddy is the best and feel like screaming. But I stayed silent. I didn't know what else to do. I was just a kid, caught in something I never asked to be part of. But it didn't end there. The truth went deeper. And what I found next? It wasn't just about infidelity. It was something that shook me even harder. Something that made me question everything I knew about my father, and about myself. That's when I realized, this wasn't just a story about cheating. It was about secrets, choices, and the silent wars families fight behind closed doors. And the worst part? I was right in the middle of it, with no one to turn to and nowhere to run. What I discovered next is something I still don't know how to talk about. But in the next part, I'll take you there. To the moment that changed everything. Forever. I couldn't sleep that night. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling in the dark, listening to the quiet sounds of our house, the ticking clock, the faint hum of the fridge, the occasional creak in the walls. Everything sounded normal. But inside me, nothing felt normal anymore. I kept replaying those messages over and over in my head. The words. The way he talked to her. Like she was the center of his world. Like my mom didn't even exist. The next morning, I looked at my dad like he was a stranger. He was sitting at the kitchen table sipping his coffee, scrolling on his phone like always. My mom was cooking eggs, humming softly, completely unaware. I wondered how she could be so calm when the ground beneath us was clearly cracking. Every smile my dad gave her felt fake to me now, and I started to wonder how long it had been this way. Did he love her at all? Or had this woman, whoever she was, replaced everything we thought we had? I kept hoping I was wrong. That maybe I had misunderstood something. But that hope faded the more I started noticing things. Like how he always kept his phone face down. Or how he'd disappear for work calls during dinner. Or the way he came home late some nights smelling like cologne that wasn't his usual kind. I wasn't imagining it. I was seeing the truth, piece by piece, and it was ugly. My mom still smiled like everything was perfect. She still packed his lunch. Still asked him how his day went. I wanted to scream at her to stop, to open her eyes, to realize that something wasn't right. But how could I? What proof did I have that wouldn't just blow everything up? I was scared that if I told her, I'd destroy our family forever. But staying silent was destroying me, too. One night, I made a decision. I needed to know more. I waited until everyone was asleep, then crept into the kitchen and found his phone charging on the counter. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. I knew the passcode, he hadn't changed it. I opened the messages again. The woman's name was Lena. She had sent him a photo that made my stomach turn, nothing inappropriate, just her smiling in a dress, but the caption said, "Can't wait to see you again, baby." They had a routine. He saw her during business trips. She lived in a nearby city. There were dinner dates, hotel reservations, plans for weekends. They even had a secret folder in his photo gallery, disguised under a random app name. I looked through it and saw pictures of them, selfies, inside jokes, one of them even holding hands at what looked like a beach. It was like watching someone else's life. But what hit me hardest wasn't the pictures. It was a message he sent her a few weeks ago. He wrote, "Sometimes I think about leaving, but it's not that simple. The kids wouldn't understand." That's when I felt like I couldn't breathe. He had thought about it. About leaving us. And the only reason he didn't was because of us. Not because of my mom. Not because he felt guilty. But because it wasn't convenient. After that night, I started watching not just my dad, but my mom too. I started asking questions in my head. Was she really that unaware? Or was she just pretending not to see it? Was she protecting us, or protecting herself? Sometimes I'd catch a strange look in her eyes when my dad was on the phone. Or see her glance too long at his screen when it lit up. Maybe she knew something. Maybe she didn't want to admit it either. The weight of the secret was crushing. I felt like I was walking around with glass in my chest, and every day it cut a little deeper. I started avoiding my dad, barely answering him when he spoke to me. I didn't want to pretend everything was fine anymore, but I also couldn't start a fire I wasn't ready to put out. And just when I thought I had seen it all, something happened that made everything even worse. A message came through on his phone while I was home alone. I saw it flash across the lock screen, just one sentence. Short. But enough to send my heart racing. "I think your son knows about us." And that's when I realized, this wasn't just about me watching him. They were watching me too. I stood frozen, staring at that message on the lock screen like it was a bomb about to go off. "I think your son knows about us." My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't even open the message. I just placed the phone back exactly how I found it and walked away, but everything inside me was spiraling. They knew. Or at least she did. That meant my dad probably knew too. Had he noticed how quiet I'd become? How I avoided him lately? Did he figure out I'd gone through his phone? For the next few days, I lived in paranoia. Every time my dad looked at me, I felt like he was trying to read my mind. Every moment felt sharp, uncomfortable. He didn't say anything, but I noticed changes. He became more careful with his phone, more alert around me. He stopped leaving it out in the open. He changed the passcode. He even started locking the office door when he worked from home. It was like we were in this silent game, both of us pretending nothing had changed, but both of us fully aware it had. Meanwhile, my mom was stuck in the middle of all of it, and she didn't even know. Or maybe she did. The more I watched her, the more confused I got. Sometimes, I'd catch her staring off during dinner, not really listening, just nodding while my sister talked. Other times, I'd see her quickly wipe her eyes in the hallway when she thought no one was around. I wanted to ask her so badly, but what could I even say? "Hey Mom, did you know Dad's cheating on you with some woman named Lena?" I couldn't do that. I was too scared of what that truth might break. One evening, I overheard my parents arguing quietly in their room. I couldn't make out all the words, just fragments. "Don't bring the kids into this. I told you I'd handle it, you're being careless." It wasn't loud, but it was tense. My mom's voice shook, and my dad's was sharp. It was the first time I realized maybe she did know something. Maybe this wasn't a secret anymore. Maybe it was just a time bomb, ticking away slowly in our home. Then something strange happened. My dad suddenly started acting different. Nicer. He offered to help with dinner, brought home small gifts for my mom, even asked me to go on a drive with him, just the two of us. I almost said no, but something told me I needed to go. During the drive, he didn't say anything about what I knew. He just talked about school, about life, and then casually said, "You know, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, but it doesn't mean they don't love their family." That was all. No explanation. No confession. Just that one line. I didn't answer him. I just looked out the window, feeling like the space between us was filled with invisible landmines. And the worst part was, Lena didn't go away. I saw her name pop up again a week later when he thought I wasn't watching. I didn't even need to read the messages anymore. Just knowing she was still there was enough. Enough to keep me up at night. Enough to keep the tension boiling under every surface in our house. This wasn't just a secret I was holding, it had become a storm we were all quietly living under. And I knew something was going to break. Soon. Everything felt like it was coming to a breaking point. The air in our house was thick, like everyone could feel something wasn't right, even if no one dared to say it out loud. My dad kept pretending everything was normal, helping out more, making jokes at the dinner table, acting like the perfect husband. But it felt fake. Like a cover-up. And my mom, she smiled less. She moved slower. I caught her staring out the window a lot, like she was somewhere else entirely. I didn't know what was worse, the lies, or the silence between them. I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. My mom would suddenly get quiet when my dad walked in the room. I saw her looking at a bank statement once and then quickly hiding it when she saw me. There were whispered phone calls behind closed doors, longer trips to the grocery store, and a certain coldness in her voice that hadn't been there before. I realized then, she wasn't just hurting. She was planning something. But I didn't know who to be more afraid of, my dad, with his double life and fake smiles, or my mom, who now carried this strange, quiet energy that felt almost dangerous. I felt trapped between two people I didn't recognize anymore. The tension built up every single day, until it started affecting even my little sister. She asked me one night, "Why is everyone being weird?" and I had no answer. Just a sick feeling in my chest. Then one night, it happened. The night everything felt like it was about to explode. My dad's phone rang while we were having dinner, and this time, he didn't ignore it. He stood up, walked away from the table and took the call. My mom followed him. Not quietly. Not gently. She stood up, put down her fork, and walked straight after him without saying a word. We could hear their voices down the hallway, low at first, then rising. There was shouting. Something crashed. My sister looked at me, terrified. And all I could think was, this is it. My sister clutched my arm as the shouting got louder. We couldn't make out every word, but the anger in their voices was enough to make our hearts race. I stood up, told her to stay at the table, and slowly made my way down the hall. I didn't plan to eavesdrop, but something told me this wasn't just another argument. As I got closer to the bedroom door, I heard my mom yell something that stopped me cold. So how long were you going to keep lying to both of us? Both of us? That sentence hit differently. I pressed myself against the wall, just out of sight, my mind racing. What did she mean? I thought this was just about Lena. Just about the affair. But then my dad's voice came through, lower, angrier. She wasn't supposed to contact you. I told her to stay out of it. There was silence for a few seconds, followed by the sound of something being thrown, maybe a book or a picture frame. Then my mom's voice again, quieter now, but even more intense. I know everything now. Not just about her. About the money. The accounts. The transfers. You lied to me, to your son, and to her. That's when my knees almost gave out. The affair wasn't the only secret. There was money involved. Hidden accounts. Maybe even stolen money. Suddenly, this wasn't just a story of betrayal between husband and wife, it was something bigger. Something darker. A lie that had been growing quietly in the background, unnoticed, until now. And the worst part? I realized in that moment. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was involved. Whether I liked it or not. My dad had made decisions that could ruin everything, and I was right in the middle of it. And whatever my mom was planning next, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about truth. And consequences. The next morning, everything felt different. Quiet, like the house was holding its breath. My mom didn't make breakfast. My dad didn't go to work. No one spoke at the table. But then, just as I was about to leave for school, my mom called me into the living room. My dad was already sitting there, looking pale and tired, like he hadn't slept at all. She sat down across from me, eyes steady but red. "There's something you need to know," she said, her voice calm but shaking underneath. "I found out about your dad's affair. And about the money he's been hiding. He used your name to open one of the accounts." I froze. What? He thought it would never be traced. But now the authorities are involved. There's going to be an investigation. My head spun. I wasn't just caught in the middle anymore, I was part of it, legally. My dad didn't look at me. He just sat there, silent. My mom continued, "I've spoken to a lawyer. I've also spoken to Lena." That name made my stomach drop. She didn't know he used your name. She thought she was part of something real. But she gave me everything, messages, voice recordings, even financial records. My dad finally spoke, quietly. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it had. Way too far." Just when I thought that was the worst of it, my mom stood up and handed me a small envelope. "Check your college fund. You'll find out why we can't use it anymore." I opened it hours later, hands shaking. The final twist? The money wasn't just hidden. It was gone. All of it. Every last dollar. And my dad had no explanation. I didn't speak to my dad for days after that. There was nothing left to say. The trust was broken beyond repair, not just because of the affair, but because he used my name for something so selfish, so reckless. My mom filed for separation quietly. She didn't yell, didn't break down, just signed the papers and moved forward with a calmness that came from being tired of the lies. She reported the financial fraud too, but the lawyer said since I was technically a minor when the account was opened, I might be protected. Might. Lena disappeared from our lives. I never saw her again, but a part of me always wondered if she was just another victim, too blinded by whatever promises my dad had made. My sister never really understood what happened, and maybe that's for the best. She still asks about Dad sometimes, but not as much anymore. We're all trying to move on. I started working part-time to slowly rebuild what he took. College plans changed. Life changed. But in a strange way, we became stronger, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. My mom, especially. She became someone I deeply admire. She didn't let the betrayal define her. She stood up, protected us, and made sure we never felt like we had to carry his mistakes. People say secrets have a way of coming out, and they're right. I wish I could forget everything I saw, everything I learned. But I can't. This story, this truth, it changed me. It taught me that sometimes, the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. And that some secrets really do stay with you forever. 2.